On today's episode of Basically Detectives, we're beginning with episode 1 of I Am a Killer. How you doing, lambs? As usual, Basically Detectives, we don't summarize the whole show for you. Go watch it yourself. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/loveandmurder. We have tiers as low as $1 to start with. Kai always says to do the $5 tier to get the best bang for your buck. And you can go to our website, murderandlove.com, check out our merch store. You can even use our SOS system, which we've been advertising for the past few months, where you get to send us a voice message. So if you want to say hi, talk about cases, talk about episodes, all that is welcome. So the first episode of I Am a Killer circles around a James Robertson, 54-year-old man who has been serving time, I believe, 37 years in prison. Very interesting case to begin with. As far as first episodes go, I thought this was a good choice. It's interesting to hear him talk about his childhood. To us, he doesn't really explain anything about his childhood other than, he was middle class-ish. He grew up around diverse neighborhoods. He grew up in different areas. He admits that he got into a lot of trouble pretty early on. I think he said when he was 12 years old, he committed a robbery or some kind of assault charge. If you guys can remember off the top of your heads, let me know in the comments. Hearing him talk about himself and the situation that he's in, kind of aggravating if you ask me. What he says in the beginning of the episode, he makes it seem like the position that he's in is horrible and came out of nowhere, and it's like, you committed murder and theft and robbery and assault, and you've been a hoodlum all your life. You've been a ne'er-do-well all your life, a menace to society. And then you're going to wonder why you're in jail, and, they don't treat you like a human in here, and they don't care about you, and the guards are mean to you and mistreat you. It's like, no shit, you're in prison. You're in prison for a reason. You're not going to go there and get a massage. Well, I mean, you might, but what happens after the massage isn't going to be... Anyway, so it's just... You guys know, it really bothers me to hear these people not admit that what they've done to themselves is their fault. Like I said before, later on he does kind of come back to, it wasn't my fault. But still, for him to have that mindset, I don't know, the fact that he couldn't accept the blame, and it could have something to do with his family. He apparently got back in touch with a cousin of his who has really opened up to him. So they've been kind of a family for him, especially since... we do find out from not his attorney, but the guy who was supposed to investigate his plea for the death penalty, I think is what his role was. The guy investigating him clarifies for us that he had no family life, really. His mom and dad were drug addicts or drunks or something. They always fought all the time. They got divorced, they got remarried, they fought more and more. So it wasn't really a healthy environment for him at home. But that being said, there's people who experience way worse and aren't, crazy serial killers and menaces and all that kind of stuff. But it's an interesting episode, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about, him reaching out to his family. Or maybe it was, I believe the cousin said that he reached out to him. The cousin reached out to James, and they started talking more and more. The cousin seems to think that James, he's got like a quote-unquote softer heart. I don't know about all that. I don't know if I would say any of that, because he definitely, I think the attorney said that James saw the man he killed as a means to an end. So, summarize it real fast. He's in prison for burglaring and arson and whatever it was he went to prison for. He's in prison. He hates being there. He continues to be a pain in everybody's ass, starting fights, being in riots, just being a total jerk. So he gets solitary confinement a lot because of his behavior, and solitary confinement may not be the best punishment for somebody. It definitely doesn't help some people. I get that. But for most people, I can see where having to be in solitary confinement might be, you learn something. You realize, okay, I messed up. This is what's going to happen if I mess up. I'm not going to do it again. And even the guy who James, claimed was his friend, even he said, when you get punished or you go to jail or whatever it is, all you got to do is listen to them and do what you're told go through the motions for a little bit of time, and then bam, you're done. No, James continued to just get in trouble, be a problem. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those inmates where the guards just hate him. And he even says, the guards probably don't like me, but the people that they do like, they're the problem. I don't think they're the problem. Everybody who is the personality type of James Robertson, they're always the ones to say that they're not the problem. Everybody else is the problem. So he's not hiding that bullshit from me, guys. He's not, convincing me otherwise. But looking at his record, too, when they were reviewing his time there, he's like, oh, they look at this thing I did in like the 80s and the 90s, and they say, oh, you did this, that's your record, and there's fine excuses. That is your record. And he even says that, but he says it like it's a problem, and it blows his mind. Like, it's called a record for a reason, You get in trouble, you do something, it stays with you forever. That's why it's called a criminal record. The people who bother me are the people where something works this way, and they don't like it because it's inconvenient for them, even though they're the ones that are putting themselves in that place to begin with. I just can't stand people like that. When you tell somebody, this is how it is, and it's like that right now because it's your fault, you're to blame. Oh, well, they're just finding excuses to keep me in here, blah, blah, blah. No! You are putting yourself in here, and you're not showing any progress in changing who you are. He's probably gotten worse in the interim. Granted, as they tell you in the show, he did end up getting his death row request. He is on death row, he's just waiting. But the nurse lady who kind of goes into the solitary confinement at the close management program, she explains that close management is a very, very negative alternative for inmates. They're always alone. They argue with each other across the hall in the different rooms because they're so lonely and aggravated and depressed and bored. And if they're not arguing with each other, they're asleep and lonely, and they're confined to these small spaces. I get it. I really do. But at the same time, the people who go there for a reason. Then she also explains that going from close management to death row, you could be waiting for 50 years to get killed on death row. It all depends on decisions from higher-ups and I guess to a certain extent who else is in line. I hate to say it that way, but I don't know how else to put it. And they debate over why James killed his cellmate. Just to touch upon that for a quick second, he got tired of being in solitary confinement, so when he finally got back to his cell one day, he was thinking to himself, I'm just gonna kill my cellmate and wish for the death penalty. He strangled his cellmate. And again, he treats it like it was just a means to an end. He took a human life just because he was done with his punishment. And it's so weird that this guy can just run around and cause terror and mayhem and just be an asshole, and he can't handle being in jail, in prison. I've never been in prison myself. I don't know what it's like. I hope I never have to go. But, it's the age-old adage of if you don't want to do the time, then you shouldn't do the crime. It's that simple. People are listening like, oh, is Rick from the 90s? Maybe. You don't know. All right? Chill. Relax. Calm your neck, as Kai would say. Yeah, this guy. The audacity of this man to put himself in this situation and then find it necessary to kill somebody just to get out of the situation he put himself in, that blows my mind. And I know the man that he killed probably wasn't a better person. They do talk about this guy a little bit, well, James does, so he didn't sound like the greatest guy in the world either, but still, who is James to decide who gets to live and who gets to die? It baffles me. And I want to know what you guys think about the family. As I was saying before, I don't really know how much James has changed. We start off with the story of how James ended in prison, and then the story of how he wanted to get out, how he killed a cellmate. Then we cut to the cousin talking about how he reached out and provided James with some kind of family. And the cousin even goes as far as to say that they wanted him to kind of stop requesting the death penalty, or at least put it on hold. That way they could all have more time with him, I guess, is what he said. And then the cousin even explains, like, well, that was kind of selfish of me because what James wants is the death penalty. So I don't know how to feel about that. Like, how would you guys feel if someone you cared about didn't have, much longer to live, or you had I guess a better example would be you have no idea how much longer they have. Because James could get executed a month from now, he could get executed 30 years from now, we have no idea. He might be 97 years old by the time they inject him. We don't know. I looked it up, I don't think I saw any updates on whether or not he was given a sentence for the death penalty, or if they had picked a date. I mean, he has a sentence for it. He's on death row. He's just waiting. But I don't know if they pinned down the date on when they're going to do it or not, as of right now. I don't know. I'm a little mixed about the family thing. I get that they want to give him some support because he never got that at home, but at the same time, there's a lot of minutia in this example where, he is a killer, he did commit crimes, he doesn't see other human beings as anything special. The one nurse lady admits, when he looks at you, he kind of just looks through you, is what she said. He feels like a creep watching him. He even looks at the cameraman during his initial interview and says, "You're looking at me like I'm crazy." And he is. And the problem, too, with him wanting the death row sentence, even his attorney, he went through several attorneys, apparently. And the attorney that landed with him now, who has stuck with him through everything, as far as I know, he's kind of sympathetic towards James. I think the attorney realizes the tragedy of James's upbringing, and to a certain extent, you can argue that his upbringing and his circumstances did kind of mold who he is, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you have to go around killing people and being a complete loser and a menace to society. His attorney, like I said, is sympathetic. The attorney wants to be there for him during the injection. He wants James to know that in his last moments, there was somebody there who is, I think he put it as, on his side, that he can leave this world knowing that. And I don't really know if the cousin's family said they were going to be there for his execution or not. I don't remember if they clearly said they were or they weren't, or they didn't know it was going to happen. This man has people who do care about him, but he's just put himself in such a situation that doesn't really matter. He's going to die on death row, and that's what he wants. So my two biggest questions for you guys are, what do you think about what he did? Do you think that was his only way out? Or do you think he had some kind of ulterior motives? So I want to hear what you guys think about this whole entire episode. I think it's a good start. It's definitely a good way to begin the show. I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes. I haven't watched them yet, but I do plan on watching them in batches. That way I can record more and more episodes as I go along. But I'm excited to see where this goes. James Robertson was an interesting case. As much as I got aggravated listening to him talk, it's still an interesting case to study. It's still an interesting story to hear. And it's still interesting to find out what's going on with him. And I was honestly surprised that he has family who cares about him. Them showing their letters, they had stacks and stacks of letters just piled up, all from James, and him, telling them that he loves them, and it's interesting how even people like him have that. So, I want to hear what you guys think. Please be safe until the next episode, and we will pick up next week with episode 2. Lock your doors at night.